guys, so now we're going to do our first oil change on the Ducati Street Fighter V2. Just want to go over a couple of the items that we're going to need. Let's start off with the oil filter. This is all OEM filter. Then we have the OEM O-rings, OEM crush washer, OEM 4 quarts of oil, and kind of the deviation we're doing, we're actually changing out the drain plug from the OEM to one from Racebolt that's actually pre-drilled for safety wiring. And this actually comes with its own crush washer, so we'll use this one instead of the OEM and just keep that as a spare. As far as tools, we're going to need an 8mm for the oil filter cover, 14mm for the drain plug, just 1/4 inch and 3/8 of your ratchets, and use my safety wiring, so safety wire pliers and the actual safety wire. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we need. If you pan back over to the bike, then you can see that we need the aluminum foil that's going to be right here for the actual cover to help so it doesn't drain back in, but instead drains down. So just wanted to give that as an update. Oh, one more thing. Let's go over here. So on the V4, we need to have 3 bolts we basically screw in and use the pull method to pull it out to get access to the filter. On the V2, you can use the same bolts, but you're only going to need 2 of them instead of 3. Okay guys, so here is the fill plug that I was talking about. You can see it's already pre-drilled for safety wire. So we are going to chop this out, and there's actually the safety wire piece that comes with the actual cap. You have an actual spot that you actually do the safety wiring to. So I'm actually going to be cutting this, removing the fill plug, so when you drain the oil, it actually drains better if you have the fill plug removed. Okay, here is where the drain plug is. It's actually the same location on the Street Fighter as it is on the Panigale. Luckily enough, the whole lower end is about the same. It's just literally the fairings that are different. So undo that, and we'll go ahead and drain the oil. That before you start draining the oil, I'd recommend you have the bike sitting for at least 4 hours. I recommend overnight, just so all the oil can go all the way down, and it's the best chance you're going to drain all the oil. And the other thing is to make sure, if you either have it up on a lift, have it on a wheel chock, or have on stands, and make sure the bike is level when you're draining. Then I wanted to go ahead and show you here. So here is the drain plug while the oil is draining, and I'm just going to go here and I kind of show you. We're at about a little over 600 miles, which is the first break-in, and our oil shavings are literally not that bad. I'm actually impressed with the amount of oil shavings. There are some, but the magnet did a great job and picked up everything. It's not a lot. So just want to give you guys a look and see how that process is. Now that the oil is draining, I'm going to let it drain overnight, just to make sure, we have the time. We're not riding this bike right this second. So I'm going to let it drain overnight. Actually, before we drain the oil, I had this bike sitting for a couple days, but typically you need 4 to 5 hours. I would, overnight's preferred. I'm going to let it drain overnight just to make sure everything's off. The fill plug is pulled. That way it drains better. Next thing I want to do is to pop out the oil filter cover and get that draining as well. Okay guys, quick tip that we're running into. We're using the RNG case covers on both sides, and one of the issues I'm finding is this cover, how it goes over everything. We're running into the issue to where this cover was actually blocking getting to that bolt. So the first thing I did was I tried trimming the backside way down in there a little bit. Then I was like, you know what, let's get a better method of how we're doing this. So take out the trusty heat gun, heat it up this area right there, and basically while it's hot, you just put this onto the bolt, let the actual plastic cool down and form around the socket, and now I have perfect access. I'm going to have to do the same thing on this side because this part right here also blocks access to this bolt. I love these covers, but you know, they're engineering, they really need to think this through a little bit. They need to take this, heat it up, and get a nice radiused access for that actual bolt. Okay, so here's a visualization kind of how the axis is now. That was radiused, and this top part was radiused, and I actually used more of like a flat edge to be able to press it back even more up here, and mainly to get access for the cover coming off. So you can see that has full access now, and this bolt has full access now. That way I can get these bolts out and pop the cover off. Okay, so here is the bolt that comes out. This is an 8mm, and just wanted to show you the size of it. Now, this bolt is, like I said, what we use on the V4. We use 3 of these, and it's about 50 mil in length. Now, we can't really show it on the film, but there's actually 2 different sets of threads. There's a set of threads for the original bolt that's in there that goes through, and there's a set of threads for this bolt. I don't know what size it is. It's 50mm in length, and I will see if I can find out what diameter it is, and then I'll go ahead and put it in the description. So this goes in. You just finger tight these on. Now there's 2 kind of methods that people do. I've seen people screw these in and actually press against the back to pop the cover off. I don't really like to do that because then you start marring up the backside and you have a chance of damaging the threads that are actually in this cover. I like just actually grabbing both of these, wiggling back and forth until you can pop the cover off. Okay. All right, so I just wanted to show these are the bolts. So actually I measured them. These are 8mm, so it's an 8 by 50, 50 length, and 8mm is the diameter here. It's actually a 13mm socket that goes on these, so that's what is used. So unfortunately with this one, I wasn't able to do the wiggle off method. I actually had to put these down far enough and use my ratchet. So basically you just go half turn, half turn, half turn, half turn, and basically walk this back out until I get it wiggle enough, then I can pull on it. I don't know if it was just because it's the first time in here, but it was just really tight. Next thing we're going to do is use a pick and go ahead and put this in here and pull it out like so. Using a pick just works really easy on being able to grab the filter out, drain it out here like so. I'll just stick it in there for now. Next thing we're going to use the pick for is for removing the O-rings. So you can just grab it and pull, and it comes off real easy. Go ahead and grab it, pull. Let's try it again. My hands are slippery with oil. Let's try it again. Take 3. There we go. Okay, so now that these are off, I'm going to go ahead and get this all cleaned up and ready to install the new O-rings and go to the next step. All right, one last thing. I've got this all cleaned up and ready. I'm just going to go ahead and set this aside. Now that we got the drain plug, oil's drained, the filter's out, any residual can drain out of there. Now we got both those done, and the oil fill cap is off to let it breathe so it can drain better. Now I'm going to let it sit overnight and go ahead and get everything back together tomorrow. Hi guys, wanted to show you kind of the next step after we drain the oil. So I went ahead and cleaned this out thoroughly, put some oil on the galleys in these little areas here, then put on the new O-rings, then put more oil on the outside. You can use oil or grease, whichever you prefer. This is the OEM crush washer. Since we are going to be using the aftermarket race bolt drain plug, I wanted to show you what it looks like in comparison. So here's the stock one versus there, so you can kind of see the difference in the amount of threads, and also on the outside, this one is, I believe, a 13 millimeter or 14 millimeter, where this one is a 17 millimeter. And the reason why I like it, it isn't magnet just like the OEM, but I like it that it is drilled, so that way I can safety wire. It did come with this copper crush washer. I'm going to use that one for this oil change. Then I still have the OEM one I'll use for the next one. Let me pan over here and show you the filter housing. I went ahead and cleaned all the oil out of it, cleaned all the residue, made sure it was completely spotless. And that foil trick did a great job. Have no oil residue whatsoever. So next step, we're going to be putting in the filter. Then I'll put on the cover, put on the drain plug, and then we can start filling it up. Okay, so the filter is in. It's pretty simple as far as getting the filter in there. There's one open end and one closed end. The open end goes on the inside, and you push it in till you kind of feel a snap, and then you feel it go all the way in. Next, I'm going to put on the cover. All right, so wanted to show that. Get down here. I got the filter in. I got the cap back on. The two bolts are torqued to 8 Newton meters. And I went ahead and filled the oil to 3.5 quarts. And you see the cap is, see if I can get a good shot at it right there. The cap is back on, just loosely right now, but it's back on. Waiting to go ahead and wire tie, and wanted to show that this is how I have the bike sitting right now. What I did is, after I went ahead and filled 3.5 quarts, turn it on, let it run for about 10-15 minutes, enough so it gets warm depending on your ambient temperature, and then go ahead and take it off the stands. And the way I take it off the stands is I put the kickstand down and just put a couple things on, like, a block of wood, whatever it is. So when it's on the back stand right there, it's basically level on the floor, but it's not up on the stands. So it's pretty secure. I'm not worried about it. So now it's ran, like I said, and now it's sat for about half an hour. And I'll show you where it is on the sight glass. It's about halfway. So that's about 3.5 quarts, showing halfway after sitting for about half hour, 45 minutes or so. What I'm going to do is just let it sit for another half an hour just to make sure. And then I'll go ahead and safety wire both my fill plug right there, and I'm not sure if I can get a picture of, yeah, you can kind of see it. So there's the drain plug, and you can see that is ready to be safety wired. I went ahead and drilled back here into the plastic just a hole so I can safety wire it to that, and that'll be next. Okay guys, I want to show you the last step, which is safety wiring. And I went ahead and let me go back under. As you can see, I got the bike back on the stands again so I can get some extra clearance underneath. And let's see if I can show you under here. and hopefully you can see it, but there's the drain bolt, and I drilled a little hole in the plastic over here. That way I could safety wire it to it. And let me show you up on top. There you can see the fill plug, and let's see if I can get some better light up here. So you can see the fill plug has holes in it as well, and it's a large Allen, and it is safety wired onto the adapter that basically just goes on one of the cover bolts. And last thing I wanted to show you is just make sure there's this little rubber tie right here that holds the brake line to the reservoir. That just comes undone. That way you get extra clearance to be able to take that bolt out. Whether you have the OEM or whether you change it out, just make sure you do it and make sure you put it back. Other than that, it's like I said, it's been sitting. Oil still at a little over half. So we should be good to go. And that is how we do a V2 Street Fighter, and it's the same for the V2 Panigale oil change. Hope that helps, and let us know if you have any questions. Leave us a comment, and please make sure and subscribe and like the video, and hopefully we're going to be posting more with more work we do on the V2 and the V4. Thanks for watching.